Good evening, Pathfinder leaders for the Nevada Utah Conference. Welcome to another one of my fireside chats. Um, my fire is non existent, but I was out here supervising the younger one in the pool, and he just got out, and it's a nice evening. I thought I should try to record another one of these topics. So, this is another one I just had a lot of questions on recently, end of the year and everything. And this one, there is a little confusion over, so I'm going to try to solve some of the confusion for you guys. So, this is for on the topic of good conduct. All right, it's another award we give out every year to our Pathfinders called the Good Conduct Award. And I'm going to go over what it means for the good conduct. It is spelled out in the Pathfinder staff manual, which all leaders should have. This one is listed on page 49. Okay, let me pull on my magnifiers here. My eyes are getting old, people. It happens to all of us. Oh, it's weird though. I look at the paper and I look away, and the whole world spins from the magnifications, and it's a little disconcerting. I'm still trying to get used to it. So, you know. All right, now this is for the Good Conduct Award. Now, there is some people get a little confused over how this works, and I think it's mainly because the language here is not written that clearly. I remember when I was a director, I had questions, and one of my this was before we had training in our conference, and there was only like 3 clubs in the entire conference. Nobody could answer these questions. I went to a national training. I found somebody like, "What does this mean? Please explain this to me." And so I'll tell you what they told me. Okay. And the people I found were the people who wrote the book, so I assume they know what they're talking about. So here we go. They have to be an active member of the club for the whole year, okay? I think that's pretty self evident. They cannot have started in February when we started in September, so they got to be an active member for the whole year. That's with any award for a club. Good conduct, Pathfinder of the Year, Most Valuable Pathfinder Award. That's what our conference does. You can look it up on our webpage on the handbook. But they got to have been active for the whole year. I would say if they transferred from another club and another club can supply you with the information you need to fill out one of these honors, that should not be held against them, I would say. So if you have a kid who just transferred in from Michigan and his director emails you, contact his director and he emails you his attendance and what he did, his coursework, so he's all up to date. You're like, okay, I know he did these honors, he did all this. Here was his attendance at his old club. Then I would count that as active because Pathfinder is a worldwide organization, right? And maybe he might not have been a member of your chapter for the year. If he's been a member of Pathfinders for the year, and you can prove that he is the part of the year where he wasn't with your club, that he had met the requirements for any award, I would go ahead and count it personally. Maybe some other leaders wouldn't, but I think that's fair. So if you disagree with me, post it in the comments. Or if you agree with me, post it in the comments. So the next part of this award, the Good Conduct Award, is they need to have a complete Class A uniform. Okay, that's an obvious one, right? We're not to the controversial part yet. Okay, all the insignias and everything properly attached. Okay, so this kid has his patches at 1/4 inch intervals, not inch and a half. They're not crooked. They're not sideways. They're not upside down. Right? Obvious. Right? They have an excellent 90% record of attendance. Now, I get a lot of attendance questions because a lot of leaders are not familiar with excused conduct. And I have kids contact me and complain about this one too. They say, "Oh, my leader doesn't said I'm not in good standing anymore because I don't have good attendance record." But every time we're out of town, we let them know we're not in attendance. And doesn't the manual say excused absences do not count against attendance? They are absolutely correct. If you have an excused absence, it does not count against your attendance. And bad attendance is when you don't show up and you didn't call, you didn't have a letter, you didn't explain yourself. The director just doesn't know why you're not there. Okay? But if you call the director before the meeting and say, "This is Mrs. Smith and Jimmy won't make the meeting this week because he has tonsils out," that's an excused absence, right? And we go, "Oh, thank you for letting us know," and we'll pray for him, right? Brother Joe calls the director, says, "Don't forget, we're not going to be there this week because we're on a cruise." Oh, that's right. Enjoy your cruise. It's an excused absence now. It is no longer absence. He's not tardy. He's not delinquent. He's not absent. Okay. And there's more in under absences here in the manual you can read up. So um, make certain that you're recording your attendance and absences correctly. But that's the other thing is you have to be recording attendance. You cannot be awarding an award that requires 90% attendance if you did not take attendance at your club. Okay, I talk to when I teach basic staff at the beginning of the year. Every year, I tell people you got to keep accurate records. You got to take attendance. All right, you got to mark off on the merit system. Did they get their points for showing up? Right? Did they pay their dues? Did they show up in the correct uniform? You got to keep your proper records because without those records, you can't award some of these awards. Okay, so 90% attendance. Have a conduct record consistent with the Pathfinder pledge and law. What do they mean by conduct record? That is on your merit system. Again, the merit system is where you record when they do good and bad stuff in your club, not just attendance. They get points for doing good stuff and they lose points for doing bad stuff. If you are not recording your merits, then you do not know if they have a record of good conduct. It's that simple. So, especially one consistent with the pledge and the law. Now, you might be sitting there as staff and say, "Hey, we can remember most of the year, and Johnny's been a good kid. Jill's good. And that kid, Ben, well, we have to yell at him a lot. He hasn't been." But that is subjective. That is not a record of conduct. Okay? That's just your memor just remembrances of the year. You should have an actual written record of the conduct of the children for this year, right? And it is laid out how to take those records in the manual. Okay? Everyone keeps telling me, "Where do you get this stuff?" It's in the manual. I say that a lot to people who call me. It's in the manual. Where's this? It's in the manual. Oh, I never knew that. Well, I'm sorry. It's in the manual. Okay. Have a record of achievement and progress. So that would be their records of their class levels, right? Now, most clubs are really pretty good at keeping these records. Okay, these are your records of did they finish their friend class, did they do all their assignments in their companion, right? This is their records. In the basic class level and the advanced class levels, honors and other comparable activities. Okay. Um, so basically, we want to know, did they finish their class levels? So if our good conduct go, the kids you're considering are, did they finish their levels and do you have records to prove it? Okay. Pretty simple. All right, here's the one that gets a lot of people. Been invested in one Pathfinder class prior to being awarded the Good Conduct Award. Now, the Pathfinder pin, if you see it, you got the bar, the ribbon bar for good conduct. and you got space for 4 stars. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, any of you guys can count. You're probably like, wait a minute, Brother Vernon. There's 6 years. That doesn't work. And that is because of this one line right here. They have to have been invested in one prior Pathfinder year. That means a friend can never get the Good Conduct Award. Why? Because a friend is the first year. They got to have one prior year. So your first year is friend. And then the end of your companion year, you would say they finished all their work and they've been invested in one prior year, which is their friend year. And that would get them their first ribbon bar, right? And then if they keep earning good conduct at their end of their explorer year, they get their first star for good conduct. And then so on through guide, getting one more star every year. And if they've earned good conduct every year and finished all their classes at the end of guide, their 6th year, they'll have the ribbon bar and all 4 stars. Okay? Now, in the manual right here, it actually does not explain the stars. You look at it right here, stars aren't there. There's a picture in the uniform part of the book. Okay? There's a picture of good conduct, and it shows 2 of the stars on there. And you look at that picture, and you're like, "Ooh, that's good conduct." And he has stars on it. And it says good conduct stars each additional year. So unless you read this little side note in the uniform section, you would not know from this section that that needed to be added. So it's one of those things. Sometimes it's not all in the manual in one spot. Okay. There's also another side note. Let's see if I can find the exact note. And it says, where is it? Yeah, it says that good conduct award, adults you may only wear it the year you earn it, the year after you earn it. So if after a companion, let's say you earned it, you did friend, companion year you earned your first ribbon bar, but explorer you were not a good kid. You have to now take the ribbon bar off. You're no longer considered in good conduct. But let's say your ranger year, you came back. Good conduct. You got your attitude back together again, right? Yeah, you put the ribbon back on your uniform and you add a star to it. And let's say Voyager and Guide, you were also good. So now you have a ribbon bar with 3 stars, not 4, because one year you were a goof off, right? That ribbon bar, if at the end of your guide year you earned it again, you're allowed to keep good conduct on your uniform for life. Okay? If you do not earn good conduct at the end of your guide year, you're only allowed to have it on that next year saying you had good conduct from your guide year. After that, it's retired. You do not display it on your uniform. Okay? Now, but if you do not read this whole chapter, you will not find those 3 separate pieces of information about good conduct. If you just read the little part over here on good conduct, you don't get all the information. And it was confusing to me. I had to go ask people about it. I actually have handwritten notes in my manual about this because it wasn't clear to me. Now, maybe I'm just not as smart as somebody else, and you guys read it and you're like, huh, got it. More power to you. You can have my job as soon as you're done directing because, we need somebody up here with some smarts. But That is what I've learned about good conduct. That is how good conduct works. Okay, by the manual. All right. So make certain the end of your Pathfinder year, all your Pathfinders who have that 90%, they have their Class A uniform proper, they've done all their pin, their advanced ribbon bar, right? Make sure, all of them get their good conduct award for the year. But every Pathfinder can achieve it. If they've all had a pretty good year, there's no reason why any of them shouldn't. Um, Everybody but your friends, who you have to have a prerequisite year, which also affects kids later, of course, obviously. So if your Pathfinder does not start until Explorer, they have to finish Explorer, and then, of course, their Ranger year, they could earn good conduct. Okay? So, a little tricky. You got to think about it a little bit, but it's not too hard. It's not too hard. And, of course, if you have questions, holler at me. It's what I'm here for. Now, other conferences may have different rules on this subject. So, remember, this is NUC. If you are from another conference watching this, make certain your conference does not have its own policies. Our conference just takes what's in the manual and goes with it. Some conferences have added extra requirements or changed a requirement due to what fits their conference the best. So, as always, I always tell you, check with your home conference. But this is how we do it in the Nevada Utah Conference. And it's starting to get dark out here, so I think I'm done with my recording. And as always, if you have any questions, send them to me and I will try to address them around my campfire. I got a lot more videos coming, so we will talk to you later.